Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 7 of the Grognard Grumbles. I am your host with the most, Cody Broussard. I am once again joined by my illustrious co-hosts, Chase Green and Dave Ferguson.
Hey.
And tonight, we have a very special guest, Stefan Pokorny. Tell me if I pronounced that wrong, Stefan.
You got it right, man.
Right on. It's good to have you, man. Thanks for taking the time. Come join us tonight. Grumble, bullshit, and discuss with us. First thing I always like to do when I have somebody new on the show, I like to let them tell us a little bit about their background and how they got into gaming. So, Stefan, tell us a little bit about yourself, even though I think some people probably already know a lot about you. Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, things that people don't know. And tell us a little bit about how you got into gaming.
Who knows about me? What do they know? What do they? The word is out, man. I don't know, man. I got into gaming like everybody else. D&D, like I think it was the late 70s. No, I remember exactly how. It was at summer camp. And there was a counselor, an archery counselor named Doug.
Yeah.
He used to dress in a cloak and he used to walk around with a staff, and he would teach us archery. And then one day in the summer, it was like summer camp, right? Like 3 months we're in camp,
Right.
living in bunks. And I was like, I don't know, like 10 or 11 years old, and he's like, all right, kids, we're going to play this game, Dungeons and Dragons, and here, take these index cards and roll his dice, and he showed us how to do it, and and then we'd play, and a real simple, like, and
Right.
we would get murdered, killed off,
Yeah.
One night it's a vampire, another night it's evil floating eye, whatever it was, we kept getting massacred, And
So y'all were doing this like every night at summer camp?
Well, it's so long ago. I don't remember if it was once a week or every
Right.
night or haphazardly, but if there was, it went on. There were a few sessions.
Yeah.
I don't think it was very regular. I think he got sick of it after a while. I think we were kids, But and then
how old were you?
10 or 11.
Okay.
Probably 12, somewhere around that age. Right? It's hard to put a finger on.
Yeah.
But I was hooked, like I was like, wow, this is the greatest game ever. It just so happened at the same time I was reading The Lord of the Rings.
Right.
So between The Lord of the Rings and archery and Dungeons and Dragons, I guess it was pretty formative,
Perfect storm.
So when I got back to New York, I was like, oh man, I gotta buy these books. I gotta figure this out, I think the books came out, the 3 hardcover, the books.
Right.
I was like, oh, and then I, from that point on, I started making the dungeons and making the worlds, and I remember Gary Gygax says in the book, make your own world. Here's how you do it.
Right.
So that's what I did. I didn't buy a lot of modules. I didn't buy any modules. I just started making shit up.
Yeah, that's kind of how I was. We were talking about that a couple of weeks ago. I've never been a big module guy. I've always liked reading them, and you can mine some good ideas from them. But I was the same way. I just started making shit up on the fly right from the beginning.
Well, making it up is free.
It is. Right.
Yeah, I was young. I didn't have any money to buy stuff.
Absolutely.
So I'll just make it up. Invite your friends over and get crazy.
The way the game was intended.
Yeah, and then it wasn't until 96 that I left New York to go to Milwaukee to go to Gen Con and show my first prototypes, my first stuff, Dwarven Forge.
Right.
And that's when I got introduced to the rest of the world of gaming.
So you were kind of closed off from.
Yeah.
You never went to any conventions or anything. You just kind of
No.
So take us back. I actually was watching the Dwarven again for like the fourth time last night
Oh, nice.
in preparation for this. If you guys have not seen the Dwarven go watch it. It's an excellent documentary about Stefan
See it
and
on
Dwarven Forge. But one interesting thing, one interesting thing about you, Stefan. Well, there's a lot of interesting things, but one is that you always seem kind of like the punk rocker of old school gamers to me.
like heavy metal.
Yeah, well, yeah, whatever you want to say. You were kind of like you always came off as kind of the bad boy of the alternative kid of gamers.
We
And
were all bad boys back then.
Yeah.
Growing up in the city, and I missed that whole thing. I didn't even know that it was considered satanic and all that stuff. When I ended up going to the Midwest now to conventions, and people tell stories about, oh, I had to hide my book, and my parents wouldn't let me, and I never knew anything about that. I was like, what? They loved it when we played D&D. We kept us out of trouble.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, great! He's at home with his friends. They're not out on the street causing trouble.
My parents said the same thing.
Yeah. So I missed that part. And then I realized, it was a very big culture shock for me growing up. When I left for college, I went to a campus in Connecticut, and that was a big culture shock for me. I was really fresh from the streets,
Yeah.
And, that was a culture shock. But thank God I did that, because then that helped me when I then went to the Midwest and going to Gen Con, these other conventions. I already knew that, things are different outside New York. People are different. And so that was another culture shock. And then gradually I went to more and more places. I realized how diverse this country is. It's like a lot of different countries in one.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
I'd been to Europe. I'd been to that was another culture shock. I'd been to Italy and Europe a lot. My family, my mother's side of family is Italian, so that was Europe. It was like you felt like you were going to another world.
Right.
You knew it was going to be different. You expected it to be different. And just realizing that in America, people are so different in different places was really wild to me. It's still wild. I still find it's wild. I'm still trying to figure it out. And I eventually figured out that I like the West Coast.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So you're living out there now, right?
I love it. I purchased this wonderful house out here. When my parents died, I'm an only son, adopted only son, and then they left me the family house, which was a townhouse in Manhattan. So it was worth millions, a lot, So after a couple torturous years of trying to sell it, and the whole, oh man, I could talk for hours on just that alone, but it was torture. Finally managed to sell it, not even for what it was worth, but still for a lot of money. And that's how I purchased my house out here in Seattle. And
awesome.
It's, some people think, oh my God, you're making millions on that Dwarven Forge stuff. But I never made any money. I never made money on Dwarven. It's family money that I was able to purchase this house with.
Right. So take us back just a little bit, because you were living in New York. I know you're from where are you from? Brooklyn?
Manhattan.
Okay.
It's Manhattan.
All right, right on. And so
First Street.
Who did you used to game with back then? What was that? What was the gaming culture like in New York at that time?
I don't know if we had a culture, but a lot of people were doing it, and I would just invite whoever, a friend here, a friend there, and I like doing it. When you're making all this stuff up, it's really part of the fun is making it up. So it's sort of like you spend 80% of the time making it, and then you take it out for like a test run with your friends for the other 20%. And then you go back and keep working and adjusting everything. It's like, but I feel like the most of the real joy was just in creating everything. You know,
Yeah,
strangely,
absolutely.
not that I don't like playing with, I like playing with the people, but it just goes by so fast.
Right.
It's like, oh, it's like hanging out. You're shooting the shit, you're hanging out,
Yeah.
you're talking, and I don't know how much gets done in a real game. Not a live stream. You're not performing for anyone. The real game, you sit around and you bullshit a lot,
Yeah.
and then before you know, it, I guess we better stop. But then when you're alone, I'm an only child, right? So when I was
Mhm.
alone and bored, in the old days, I'm gonna talk like a grognard now.
All
In
right.
the old days,
Yes.
people would get bored. We'd get bored. We wouldn't know what to do. We didn't have a smartphone or we didn't have cable TV. There was one or two channels. And if you weren't outside scraping your knee on your skateboard or whatnot, you were indoors. It was raining and you didn't know what to do.
Right.
So making up worlds was great. You had to be creative. You had to make up shit.
Hmm.
You know? All the grognards out there know, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um,
Oh, it's like there's so much distractions, and everyone's connected. They're like the Borg, we're all connected now in this web.
yeah,
I
yeah.
knew
It's
life
it's
before that.
it's pretty crazy. I mean, I remember, I'm actually not that old. I don't think any of us here, even though the channel's called Grognard Grumbles, I kind of called it that, kind of tongue in cheek.
Right?
Even though we're like I'm in my 30s, I think Dave is in his 40s. Chase is just a little bit older than me,
You're
and
gonna get there.
oh yeah, I'll get there for sure. But I definitely have that. I called the channel that because I've always been into old school gaming and history of gaming, and I still really like the old school
Well, you
format
started
of
at the
D and
beginning.
D.
You started like first edition.
I started with second, um, and then I kind of went back. Funny enough.
Yeah.
So I've told this story before, but basically, I got into second edition, and then I was around 8 or 9 years old, and the first thing I was introduced to was the monster manual. And I didn't even know it was. I knew it was a game, but I had no idea how it was played or anything. So
Wow.
I just saw the monster manual. I was like, oh man, this art's awesome.
The original
Whatever.
Monster Manual, the original one, the black and white
No,
Monster
no,
Manual.
the second edition one, and
Second edition. Oh,
yeah, and I kind of made up my own rules, and then
wow.
eventually fell in with an older group of guys that played. And one of those guys, his family used to play, and his dad had played since the 70s. And he saw us playing one summer out on the front porch because we used to play D&D, during the summer. We were kids and we played,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, D&D every day. And he brought out the first edition AD&D books.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so that kind of started my journey with the old school for sure. And I was hooked immediately. I had to get my hands on them.
How did that feel? Did that feel like you're like, oh, now I found the secret stuff. Like we've unearthed the original books.
Oh, well, it was for me. I don't think my friends really cared, but for me, yeah, it was like this wondrous. It was kind of like unearthing, archaic uh,
Unearthed.
artifact or something. It was just wondrous to me, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and even to this day, I think those are probably, my some. I mean, like that first edition DM's guide, the Dungeon Master's Guide, is one of my favorite role playing books ever written.
Brilliant book.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people, they hate on it, like, it's so disorganized and whatnot. But I don't know. I mean, maybe it is,
It
but
is.
it didn't bother me, like
Didn't
it's
know any better at first.
no, and it's just a it's just there's so much shit in there. And you just page through it and you come across the page, oh, more unearthed treasure. What is this chart about? And what is that? And because you just gotta go slowly through the whole book, like page by page, and not really looking for anything. At least I was just like, oh, let me just read through this. And you just kept coming up with, I don't know. And you didn't use half of the stuff. I mean, I didn't use it. You just pick and choose a couple of things. Oh, this is cool. I'm gonna add this to my game.
Yeah.
it was like a magic book of arcane information that didn't really want you to find it. Like it didn't want to be found. It was like, hey, I'm gonna put this here. I'm gonna sneak this in here, and I'm gonna put this weird rule over there, and let's see if you can find it. That's my feeling of how the Dungeon Master Guide was.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even to this day, I still pick it up from time to time and see something new every time I read through it. And I've read through that book 100 times. You
And
know,
I think it was not. It just happened that way because it actually was a whole bunch of stuff that Gary Gygax compiled
hmm
from all the players in the area, and they kept giving him stuff. Here, Gary, put this in the book, you
right?
know, and like he just compiled it, and that's so it got created in a truthful way, you know. It's like and that has a charm to it. It has a charm. It's like it was not really completely ready. It wasn't scrutinized by a board, you know.
Yeah,
It's just a dude with a whole bunch of other dudes, and they did as best they can. They put it in, and it has that feeling of authenticity and as a personal feeling, The
yeah,
whole
it definitely does.
the whole early D&D has that real personal vibe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Later,
think I definitely agree with you. That's a good point, and it's something I've never brought up. But yeah, it does feel like, especially with Gary's writing, he's actually talking to you.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
you
the
know
real, yeah, yeah.
his
Big fan.
prose is really interesting.
I'm a fan of Robert E. Howard.
Oh yeah.
I think it was an anniversary of his passing today. You know,
Oh, was
and
it?
I think so. I think I saw someone posted something on Facebook. I was, oh yeah, man, and he used to, he used to read his writing and jumped off the page like he was there talking to you. You know,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and
I mean, nobody could write action like
told you
Robert E. Howard.
mind blow. You couldn't put that stuff down.
Mm-mm.
Like, oh my god, I gotta see what happens in the next page. Oh my god.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a big Robert E. Howard fan. I've always been a big Conan fan.
Yeah.
I collect anytime I see a Conan book or comic or anything, I pick it up.
Oh,
I love Conan.
you know that I had the pleasure, the incredible good fortune of having dinner with John Milius.
Oh really?
John Milius, who the director of
Yeah,
Conan,
yeah.
and we were I was at the Legion M booth at a Comic Con. I think it was San Diego Comic Con. It was either LA Comic Con or San Diego, and he was at the booth signing. They brought him in to sign autographs, and I started shooting the breeze with him a little, and so I'm like, hey, you wanna go out and get some steak later? You wanna take out to dinner, man? Come on, I'll pay for everybody. Come on, you need a good steak. And he was like, yeah. So we all went out. We all went out. A bunch of us, like 10 of us, went out to dinner. Went to those place where they come around and they shave off the meat,
Yeah, yeah.
and we drank Francis Ford Coppola wine. He's
Awesome.
like, this is my friend's wine. I'm like, God damn. And we just had a great evening talking about Conan, and he had suffered a stroke, so unfortunately he wasn't able to really express himself that much.
Right.
But his mind is there, but he wasn't able to really voice things too well. He'd be like, "Oh, good, good, very good, very good." He would say, So, but we managed to navigate through a lot of stuff through sort of sign language, or he would express his feelings, and it was a great evening.
Yeah, it sounds like that's a once in a lifetime experience.
Oh my God, I still, I'm still amazed. I'm like, wow, I ate dinner with John Milius.
Yeah. Well, if
And
I see you at a convention, I'm gonna ask you out for a steak dinner.
let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do it.
He's told me some secrets too.
Yeah.
I can't pass them on. But yeah, I
Yeah,
got
so
inside information on some stuff.
oh, oh.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can talk about that when we're not
Yeah.
recording.
I had never
Yeah.
put it together. I didn't know John Milius, he wrote and directed not only Conan the Barbarian, but also Red Dawn.
Yeah.
A lot of movies, a lot of Dirty Harry.
Yeah, he was a great director.
Did a lot of screenplays,
Yes.
Um,
Speaking of
Apocalypse
Conan.
Now.
Oh, yeah.
Apocalypse.
Apocalypse Now. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of great stuff. He's a little wild,
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely was. He came from that wild, independent, art house
Yeah.
era of the 70s, which was, one of the best eras for filmmaking, period.
I remember I went to out in Brooklyn one year. I went to the 20th, I think it was the 20th anniversary of Conan, and they screened the film, and then at the end they had Sandal Bergman,
Mm.
who played Valeria.
Right?
Sandal Bergman got up there and gave a talk about it, and oh my God, she hadn't aged a bit. She looked just like she did in the film.
That's
And
awesome.
a dancer,
Yeah.
Gosh, I remember I was like, I actually had the guts when it ended. I ran up to her and asked her for an autograph, talked to her a little bit, I actually got her email.
Oh, wow. Cool.
And then I just placed it. I had this thought I was going to work with her on something, and then I think I became a little bit intimidated, and then I never.
Yes. So talking about Conan, I think everybody knows this about you. If they don't, um, they'll know pretty soon. You're an extremely talented artist. Um, and, since you're into Conan, I'm assuming, Frank Frazetta is probably, a
Oh
big.
man, I was at the opening of the Frank Frazetta Gallery in the Poconos.
Oh, were you? Yeah.
And I was like 15 years old, and my mother knew how much I loved Frazetta, and so she's like, if
Lucky.
you want, I'll rent a car. We didn't have a car. We lived in Manhattan. We'll
Mhm.
rent a car, and I'll drive you out to the Poconos. You can meet your hero. And I was like, yeah, Mom, yeah. And that's what we did.
Oh,
I went
wow.
with a friend of mine, Spiro, and we drove out there to the Poconos, and we saw him in the gallery. I didn't speak to him. I was shy.
Right.
But I saw him. He looked at me. I looked at him. We looked at each other. And my mother, embarrassingly, went up to him and was like, "Yeah, my son is an artist, and would you give private lessons? Would you give him I'd like to hire you?" And he was like, "No, I'm sorry. I don't give private lessons, And I was so angry at her. Right? I was like, "Did you really ask him that? What, dude,
That was
gonna
adorable.
give me a lesson? He's a giant among artists. Come on,
Yeah.
But I was kicking myself for not having talked to him. But I did get to see all those incredible paintings.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
Wheeler, all kinds of paintings were hanging right there in the gallery.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah. I'm a big, big art guy, even though I'm not much of an artist. But I've always loved art. That's what drew me to, well, that's what pretty much draws me to anything, whether it be, an album or a Dungeons and Dragons book. It's
yeah.
always the art.
The art. And the art was so important to those early Dungeons and Dragons books. I mean, I really believe that underappreciated just how great the art was. That really got people's imaginations started.
Oh,
And
yeah.
not all of it was great. Some of it was great, but some of it was not as great. And yet, what was great about it was the imaginative. It set your imagination up. I hadn't seen anything like that before.
Yeah, absolutely
It
not.
didn't matter whether it was polished, and I hadn't seen anything like it. So it was like first contact with weird creatures
Yeah.
and strange dungeons and all these fantastical, weird fantasy illustrations of shit. And you're like, "Oh my God, this has got my mind on fire." And so I have a problem with some of the newer books that they're lacking in this sort of primitive artwork.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, even all the way up until the 90s, I think, the D&D art really set the tone for fantasy art in general, I think.
Yeah, I love that. There are
and
great fantasy artists out there now today.
oh, there are. Yeah, for
Don't
sure.
think that they're being chosen. They're not being used for I'm gonna get myself in trouble here.
No, you're fine. You can say
It's
whatever you
all
want.
good. It's all good. I don't want
What was
to.
your favorite artist of the D&D artist?
Donald A. Terrier.
All
That
right. Yeah.
he was man. He was by far the best. He did
hmm
great stuff. Iconic. If we're talking about the books, yeah, then
Yeah. Yeah.
then there was other artists came along that contributed a lot, and some of the calendars and the modules, but I wasn't too familiar with those.
Right. Right.
Um, you know, gosh, who are the guys? Who are the guys? Now I have a mental block. There's the guy that did all those dragons.
Oh, you're talking about Caldwell.
Caldwell's a great one. Caldwell, but
Yeah.
also there's the other dude from Georgia, I believe.
Well, Larry Elmore.
Harry Elmore.
Yeah, Clyde
Larry
I thought
Caldwell.
he's out in Kentucky.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Gosh, I'm
yeah,
always hanging with him, and I can't remember his name.
And it's
But you
funny that
know
you
what?
say
Never remember.
Elmore, and then you were talking about getting art lessons from Frazetta, because God, it'd be great if more people did like Elmore and held like he does like little artist workshops and whatnot, lets people come in and teaches them a little bit of
Yeah,
what he knows.
yeah, yeah. And then the miniatures,
oh yeah.
Garrity, Sandra Garrity was doing great miniatures.
Oh,
Brown,
she
Gerald
was.
Brown, he's in Georgia.
Alpartha and
Grenadier,
Grenadier.
Games Workshop.
Games Workshop, sort of a little more polished. They were like more. They had a whole, a different look. They had a different look.
They did. Yeah. But it set them apart for sure. Yeah. I'm a
Yeah.
big miniatures guy too. Yeah, I play a lot of
Thunderbolt
well,
Man.
yeah, I love miniatures.
I got a collection.
Oh, I know you do. Yeah, your collection's pretty insane.
It's
Yeah.
it's bigger than I thought it was.
Yeah.
You don't realize how big it is when you have to pack it up and move it somewhere.
hmm
It's
Have
so
you
much.
always collected miniatures? Did you start doing that right from the get-go when you got into Dungeons and Dragons?
Not as much. No, when
Yeah.
I first started, I did a little bit,
hmm
but not like I do now. I did a little bit, but it was mostly theater of the mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like for many decades, I just ran theater of the mind. I would draw dungeons in my school books. Instead of doing schoolwork, I would draw dungeons
Right.
and then run these dungeons. And I wasn't a great reader. I wasn't. I was left back in the second grade.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, he's not up to par. We're gonna leave him back. He's a troublemaker. You get left behind." So now I love reading, but I'm still a slow reader. I read slow. I like to read every word, and
Yeah.
I like to weigh it. I like to weigh. I read slow, but I do enjoy it. And so I wasn't when I was making dungeons. I wasn't doing it module style. It wasn't like 20 pages of text.
Right.
It's just a drawing.
Yep.
The drawing, and in between the lines, there's some notes here and there, but I do really detailed drawing. And the drawing serves to inform me how to describe the room and what's going on and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the illustration, not from the text. And so I think that doing that for all those years, that's I was thinking about this. That's made my style of dungeon mastering a style that's very improv.
Yeah.
Because I
Um,
play that way. Like Not with the terrain. Now that there's the terrain, if I use the terrain, obviously, well, then there's certain things you want to happen because
Right.
you built
Right.
it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. That's kind of a limitation of
bit of,
using
a bit of a
3D terrain, I
limitation.
think, you know?
Yeah, and I'm saying this now because I just recently for North Texas RPG Con, I gave my girlfriend a break because she helps me to set up the games, to run the games. She uses her iPad camera to show everyone where the miniatures are, and so it's a two-person job.
Yeah.
But we were doing it so much that she's gotten worn out. So I said, "Yeah, for Texas, I'll just do Theater of the Mind. You don't have to do anything."
Oh, there you go.
So I went back to the original way, and I ran 3 games in 3 nights, Theater of the Mind, and it was a blast.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Total sandbox mode. I just let them loose. I let them loose in my city of Aloria, and they just ran wild. Doing
Yeah, those are the best kind of games. I'm definitely that way. I'm very improvisational. Um, you know,
great.
I think Chase and Dave can attest to that because they both play in my games. Um,
That's the kind of game it is.
yeah, yeah, and I think that it's a hard skill to master.
Yeah.
Well, being a DM is hard to do, anyways. We're all DMs
Being
here.
a good DM is hard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is,
yeah.
and
One can do it, but and you don't have to do it great for people to have fun. But if it is an art, if you want to do it great, then it requires a lot of perfecting of a lot of skills.
it does. Yeah, and yeah, I think a lot of that art has kind of been lost. I don't see that many great DMs anymore. And well, and also I don't see a lot of people that want to do it anymore. Um,
Wow.
so I've always had to be the game master usually because, when I got into it, I was the only one that kind of knew what was going on. And
Well,
I
you
just,
got a great voice.
oh, I appreciate it. Thank you.
I can't see you. All I can hear is your voice, and you've got a voice like you're like an announcer.
Oh, I appreciate it.
You've
Thank
got
you.
one of those great voices. Like I can just imagine you describing stuff. Must be fantastic. Like Matt Mercer has one of those voices.
He does. Yeah. Yeah. He's a great descriptor and yeah, he
Oh
definitely has a great voice and a great presence, you know.
yeah.
Um,
I haven't watched a lot, but what little I watched, I was overwhelmed. I was like, oh man, no wonder everyone likes this guy so much. He's really great. I've had the good fortune of playing in some games with him.
yeah.
And he's great. You
Yeah, he
know,
is. Yeah. I think you're great. I think you're a really good DM.
really,
I've
also a
um
really nice guy.
do what?
Yeah. He's also a really nice guy.
Oh, is he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that about him.
Great
Uh,
ambassador. Great ambassador for the hobby.
yeah, I think he is too. A lot of people knock Matt Mercer, and I
They're
overall I think he's had a
jealous.
very um
They're jealous. That's it.
well, yeah, I mean, overall he's had a really positive. I think he's had a really positive effect on the
Oh, no
D&D
doubt.
community, and
Incredible
he's
effect.
yeah, yeah, I mean, look how many people he's probably gotten into, our hobby.
Millions.
Yeah.
Millions, literally. Yeah.
The only negative thing I'd have to say about him is I think a lot of new people, getting into the game expect the Matt Mercer experience, and,
Well,
you know,
eh,
and you're not usually gonna get that because not many game masters are as good as Matt Mercer or, people run games differently.
well,
We all
also, D&D is usually not the way it's like when you see it online.
no, it isn't. Yeah,
What they do
and
there is more of a performance and a chat. It's like a show.
it is a show. Yeah, and they put on a good show. Um,
Yeah, they're good at it.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. But they play, and I it's I don't know. It doesn't bother me. You know,
No, it doesn't bother me either. Um,
I mean, I can run my game the way I want. I can
yeah,
play the
exactly.
way I want, and he can play the way he wants. I mean, what does it matter? He
It
can play
doesn't.
edition. I could play first edition. It's like,
Yeah.
who cares? You know.
Yeah.
Um,
Speaking of first edition, I know you're a big well, at least from my experience, you seem to be a big first edition guy. Like
oh,
that's what you play, right?
well, that's because that's what I started playing, and it evolved a little. I change things, I add things, I take away things, but it's really all I needed. I didn't feel I dabbled in some second edition, there was some cool
Right.
stuff there. Weapon specializations and expanded classes and all those sorts of things were fun, and I feel better for a homegrown campaign with your friends, if you go to run a game and wow, oh man, I want to play this cool character I read in this book and I want these specializations and yeah, whatever floats your boat, if you like that, great, you know. But for me, for my purposes, what I play now is I'm going to conventions all the time.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Yeah.
convention and I meet 10 people, 8 people, 10 people, 12 people for a game. I've never met them before. We only have like 4 hours, and it can't be complicated.
Right.
Got to keep it simple. So it can't take an hour to kill 12 goblins.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I like first edition for its simplicity. Roll a 20. What you get a 15? You miss. Okay, next.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all we need. So I've gone back. I've pulled back to first edition, and I like that. Also because for me, the real part of the game comes from people talking to each other.
Yeah.
It's people acting out their characters and talking to each other. It's not about crunching the numbers and being like, oh, well, my character does this, and then there's plus that, and then there's this special power and that, and like that to me, I feel like it pulls you out of the game.
Yeah. 100% agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I like to, because what I do, I'll describe, I'll make stuff up. What happens,
Right.
you cut the orc in the chest, and it cuts right down through his leather armor. You can see the blood splashes against the wall, and he stumbles back and growls at you. You got to describe stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everyone imagines it, and that's what makes the game fun. Is
Yeah, it does.
the storytelling, not numbers. So I try to stay away from numbers as much as possible.
Yeah. I feel the exact same way. That's one reason I still like the old school rules is because they do have a lot of freedom. And
Yeah,
it
give you freedom.
yeah, and it also requires a lot of creativity and imagination out of the players, right? They don't have any special powers to fall back on. They
Yeah,
don't have you have very little numbers, there's very little rules actually
yeah,
to really think about. So you really have to be creative as a
yeah,
player and really get into the character and it allow yeah, I agree with you also. It allows for a lot more role playing. And
yeah. And no, they don't have to think about much. So what are they going to think about? Well, let me see. How can I make this character more interesting? You know. And so this is what one of the things I like about the fifth. I both like it and don't like it. But with the fifth edition, they have this long way to make your character, and they
yeah,
force upon you. You have to give them these traits and these I forget what they call them, but quirks, you know.
yeah,
And it's helpful. It's helpful for people, especially if they're not used to doing that, or they're shy, or they're not, or oh, I see this guy or this girl, they have this quirk, so I'm going to bring that up once in a while. It's sort of like it's boxed up for you.
yeah,
Eh,
yeah.
I feel like in the old days, you kind of made it up on your own gradually. You
Yeah,
know,
you did, and that was part of the fun.
yeah,
You know,
like
you'd roll up a fighter, and you
Yeah.
kind of have this loose idea in your head what he's going to be like, and then you start playing a few games, and
Yeah.
you really start developing like a personality. Maybe you have like a little voice for him. You have certain
Yeah.
quirks. Maybe he does.
Start to get an idea.
Yeah.
And maybe some of that comes out of the playing,
Mhm.
maybe incidents that happen or
Right.
places you go to give you ideas for how you want to play the character. So it becomes more organically out of the game, you know? So that's the way I prefer it. Also, you can start playing very quick, and it doesn't take you hours to make a character,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, even a new person, it
Yeah.
might take them, 15, 20 minutes, and you're ready to go.
Yeah. Who wants to make 2 hours, spend 2 hours playing a character, and then you're dead in 10 minutes?
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like,
Roll master.
Yeah.
But,
Roll master.
I got a game with Tim Cass coming up. All right, see you later.
Mhm.
You, you know, let's see if this character can make it to second level.
Yeah.
Then we'll start thinking about, well, maybe let's think about the character a little.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the way I was brought up playing the game. So I guess I still have that kind of mentality.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I definitely have that mentality too. I think we kind of share
All
thoughts on that.
the characters that can do everything. I can do everything. I can do this. Well, back in first edition, you're like, no, you can't do anything but fight,
Right.
and you can't do anything except use this one spell.
Yeah. Right.
And you might be able to pick that lock, maybe, but those
Right.
are what you guys are about. And everyone had their own what do you call it? Their own ability,
Hmm.
and you knew this is what you were there for. That's your ability. That was your person. I'm a magic user. And I
Right.
know that I'm very different from you because you are a fighter. And that was all the role playing we needed. You
Yeah.
know? Like, I'm gonna bash that door down. You're like, well, you magic user better stand over there and get out of the way, It was like but everybody knew that was everyone had and it was more or less tried to be balanced. I don't know if it was up to the DM really to keep things balanced, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause
Absolutely.
if you felt that, well, this character really isn't powerful enough, you could always just have them find a magic item that will make up for it.
Right. Yeah. Or if the character felt too powerful, well, you just throw tougher monsters and obstacles at them, right?
Yeah, or have
Yeah.
them lose that item,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah. Absolutely.
bring in the good old rust monster,
There you go.
thieves guild to come and snatch something or whatever, like
Hmm.
uh I always like to play low level things because I felt it just felt more real.
It does.
You
Yeah.
know? The low
It
level,
does, but I enjoy the high level too. I feel sometimes like I'm alone at that one, but wow, I love just the craziness that happens at the high levels.
it's a different game. It's a different kind of game.
It is.
It could be fun too, but that's more of a superhero kind of game, which is fine. But my personal taste is for the low level. Oh, how many copper pieces I have now? Can I carry that 250 gold pieces out of dungeon? It's too heavy. My
Yeah.
encumbrance is I'm already 100 gold over encumbrance. My God, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna
I got
figure
my
this?
fighter to level 9. I couldn't wait to start getting to keep and building armies and marching around. Unfortunately, he died before all that happened, but God, it was amazing. Loved it.
The best time when you finally get to name level. Happens
Only
very
character I ever got to name level.
yeah. Well, I haven't played or ran a campaign in a long time, But what's happening now, what started to happen, I was talking to my girl about this the other day. I was, I keep running these live streams,
Yeah.
with with these well-known people. Keep and some of them are higher level, And so now it's almost like and some of them want to play the same character again.
Right.
So it's sort of becoming like I'm like, wow, they're like in the same world. I can bring them all in the same world, and if they're all medium level, right? Medium to starting to get high, but mostly medium.
Yeah.
6th level, 7th level, and that's when it starts to really, for my world, that's high level.
Yeah.
7th,
Yeah.
9th level, this is high level.
For AD&D, yeah, that is high level.
And because then you get some real good spells, and then it's not crazy if they get some, talking swords and some crazy stuff, and no, it's a different game. It's a ride, but so it's fun that now I can, when I do a live stream, I can call people up and say, hey man, we need a cleric. I know you got a cleric. Can you join us in this live stream? You can sort of pick and choose from your celebrity friends and be like, we already have a magic, but we need a thief.
Yeah.
Luke Gygax has a thief named Bingo.
Yeah. Yeah. Bingo.
So Bingo keeps coming back, Satine's got a sorcerer's, a high level magic Kara.
Hmm.
Magic David Baxter's got this half orc. It's fun. It's fun. We got all these different characters now.
Yeah. You need to do more live streams. The
I
few
love
I've watched of yours, I really, really enjoyed them.
fun. They're old school. They're
Yeah.
more, and I want people to understand what's going on.
Hmm.
So I use the terrain. Obviously, people want to see that. I use the terrain, and we point the camera and say, "This is where your character is. You're behind that character," and I think people can get a sense of what's happening because they can see it.
Right.
It's very important to me. I want people to know. I don't want just there to be like role playing and bullshitting. I want them to also see what's happening. Be like, oh my god, there's a whole army of orcs in front of you, and then I will literally show 60, 70 orcs on the battlefield.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a game the other day, and Satine was throwing fireballs left and right, man. It was awesome. She wiped out like I don't know, 30, 40 orcs. He's throwing fireballs, and she's new school,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, but the way we play it is you have to say exactly how far that fireball goes.
Right.
He's like, what? I was like, no, yeah, you can't just say I want to put it there. You have to tell me how many feet off the ground and how many feet in distance. You can't measure anything. Just tell me a number. And he was like, oh man. So I think everybody was like, this is, it's being a hard ass, and she nailed it, man. She nailed it exactly where it's supposed to go. And I took a ruler out and I measured the inches, and I
Yeah.
had a little cutout. I prepared in advance a little circular cutout that I cut out, and I put the circle on the battlefield. Like, oh, look at all the orcs that you got, and then I folded it in half. I folded it in half and said, well, you see, because you're this high off the ground, this is where it would hit, and I think it might have been a little tedious. It slowed the game down a little bit, but I thought it was interesting. It became a bit of a miniatures game for like a half hour of that battle. It became miniatures,
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool though. I mean, if you're doing a battle like that, you definitely want to make it
It
interesting,
was fun. We had
Yeah.
warg riders. There was warg riders. There was a hill giant, I think. There's all kinds of shit was going on. And it was spells were flying,
Yeah.
It was fun.
So, yeah, since we're on the subject, I think everybody knows that you're the founder and lead sculptor of Dwarven Forge Terrain.
Well,
What?
I'm not the lead sculptor anymore,
Oh, okay.
but
All right.
to be
Yeah.
obviously. But it's been 25 years.
Yeah.
It's grown. It's grown, and now there's a whole team of people. And we have 3, 4, 5 sculptors.
Yeah.
You know?
So,
And
how did you get started doing Dwarven Forge?
well, I was just playing games, and
Mhm.
as a creative person, I was always drawing, doing a lot of drawing, and then painting the miniatures, and then I started to get frustrated when I started really getting into the miniatures. Like, what, we don't really have. It sucks to just put them on this graph paper.
Yeah.
You know, I want more. I want it to look cool. I want the environment to match the beauty of the miniatures. And I couldn't find anything that was good, you know. So I was like, I'm gonna have to make something. So I started with cardboard, and then I started self-drying clay, but then I you know, then I started working, you know, getting jobs at the company that were doing like little lighthouses and baseball stadiums and you know stuff like that. Little
Right.
people collect these things, you know. So I was making money because I was painting. I was a painter. I was painting paintings, and then but I had to make money. I wasn't selling enough paintings to make money, so I would do odd jobs like waiting tables, scooping ice creams, or
Those are
hanging
classic
clothes.
jobs.
You know, odd jobs, and one of the jobs was painting these little things. And then I was like, you know what? If there people buy this, this is a great medium. Wow, I was like, look at these things that they make. They're really cool. They capture the detail. These things are made in China. I talked to my boss about all these questions about it, and one day I'm like, you know what? I think that I got ideas. I think that we can make dungeons for Dungeons and Dragons. And you know, it's like, well, I don't know anything about Dungeons and Dragons. I said, I know all about Dungeons and Dragons. I know exactly how we could sell this stuff. And you know the business part of it. I know the creative part. So I talked him into being my partner, and we started the company. We went to Dwarven Forge. We went to Gen Con. We
Right.
took Dwarven Forge to Gen Con. I remember we were at Gen Con. We went out to dinner. Like, great, we got to make a name for this company. What could we come up with? And the first name that came to my mind was Dwarven Forge. These are like, I imagine dwarves forging these things in the caves. Craftsmen, you know, it should be the Dwarven Forge. And then we spent like an hour or 2 hours trying to come up with a better name, but we couldn't do it. We couldn't do it, and at the end of the night, we're like, Forge is not bad. Let's just go with that, you know. And that was it.
Yeah, we've done that with different names also when we've tried to come up with stuff. It's usually whenever we finally click with that first name, anytime that we try to replace it with something else, you can't find anything better.
Sometimes it's there. It makes itself known to you, you know. Yeah, amazing. And so we had a 10-foot booth, and we'd spent some time, you know, making sculpting. I sculpted some pieces. We made some prototypes. We had like I think 300 boxes, and we put a full page ad in the catalog. I built an elaborate setup of all these painted miniatures that I painted. I had this dragon, and orcs were swarming in from everywhere. And we took a beautiful photo, got a full page color ad, and I think that brought everyone to. This is back when Gen Con was not as big as it was.
Right.
It was like maybe 15,000 people, something. But our booth was swarmed, you know. Booth was swarmed. There were like 4 or 5 people deep. We sold out in 4 hours. And it was like, wow. High five, we're in business. And then then we did something astounding and something new. We started asking people, well, can you give us your email? Write down your email. And when we come out with our next product, we'll email you. And so it was like, wow, there's these things called emails. And my clever partner was like, yeah, we can get these emails and then we can email them. With one, you can push one button and an email goes out to everybody all at once. This was like a new concept. Like, whoa, that's wild. We don't have to handwrite a thing to every person.
Right.
They had to do it. They all stood in line. There was a long line of people. They were filling out their information tediously, and we got hundreds and hundreds of names of people, and then we emailed them. And we used to sell these things through the mail, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Then for a while we sold it in stores, and that started off good, and then it started to go bad.
Right.
And when it really started to go bad, there was a lull, and what was even worse than that was that the internet, instead of helping us, was not helping us. Because what would happen is we would sell all this stuff to distributors. They would order like 1,000 sets, right? We'll take an order of 1,000. We're like, yes, you know. But then they would give 500 of those. This is an example, you know. They give 500 of those, for example, to stores, the mom and pop stores.
Right.
But then they gave another. They started to do this thing where they gave another 500 to these online sellers.
Yeah.
Who would have like a huge warehouse in a swamp or something. You know, they're getting like a 50% discount.
Yeah.
You know? And then they would sell it for 20% less online.
Mm-hmm.
So they would undercut the store owners and us, the manufacturer. We couldn't sell on our website because they're like, wow, I'm selling for 20% less. So that kind of ruined it for a lot of people, the distributors.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Because
almost went bankrupt, you know?
Yeah.
And then they weren't paying us for like 90 days.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. We had not a great we were new to the hobby. I was new to the hobby. I wasn't a business guy, and they took advantage of me. And they gave me a really bad deal, and a lot of money was tied up, and I just so we had no choice at some point to stop doing it. You know what? The only way we're going to survive now is for us to embrace the internet and to just go online.
Right.
And now no one is going to get it for less. Everyone has to pay the full price.
Yep.
And now we don't have to sell it for a 60% discount to distributors. You know? So we're making a hell of a lot more money.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. We're like,
Yeah,
you know, everyone knows us now. We go to all these conventions, they all know our name. We can just sell direct. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everybody knows Dwarven Forge now. You guys, you know,
That's
I
what
mean,
we do.
you are the premier terrain for D&D, right?
I mean, when I was doing it, no one was doing it. I
No.
created
Yeah.
that space. Created it.
Yeah,
And
you
everyone
did. You guys were the first ones I saw do it.
I was.
And actually, I was first exposed to you guys because of the gaming store. Our local game store actually carried it, and we were just in awe when we first saw that Dwarven Forge stuff.
The early resin, yeah.
Yeah, we saw it all. They had it all set up on the counter, and I was just like, "Holy
Yeah.
shit, what is this?" You know,
Oh yeah.
we were just blown away. I mean, even to this day, even though I still just drool over the Dwarven Forge stuff. You know, it's beautiful.
We only had 2 sets at the beginning, 2 sets.
Yeah.
But I was all about, you know, sculpting, the sculpting those stones, you know. It's like I've been to Europe a lot growing up, you know.
Right.
England and Italy, and I've been to Pompeii, and I've seen those walls and English countrysides and all, and my father was an architect, you know.
Mhm.
And I loved all those natural things. So I poured all my love into that sculpting, you know, and I think people appreciated it, you
Oh,
know.
for sure.
It
Yeah.
wasn't just a rush job, you know. I was like you know what I say to myself when I sculpt the stones? I kind of first of all I crank the Black Sabbath.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
Sabbath, you gotta play heavy metal when you sculpt, you know. Crank the Sabbath, and then everybody, I'm gonna put a nice big Papa stone here. The next to him, I'm gonna put his little children, and over here, this other little stone is coming in here, and he's sort of at an angle, you know. And I tell myself these little stories as I sculpt the stones because otherwise you'll go crazy.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
There's like thousands and thousands of stones, you know,
Right.
and the boredom could destroy you if you don't have a love for it, or be like, you know, let me make this shape a little different. Let me make this one jut out here. Let me, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's the best I can explain. You have to love to do it. You have to play the music because the music adds feeling It allows you to do monotonous things for hours on end.
Oh, for
In
sure.
terms of music, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw
And
this video of you doing what you had your face in this enormous magnifying glass with this tiny knife out carving into the into the clay, and and then you had mentioned like for the longest time being the only person that was in this market, and I was seeing that video and thinking about it and being like, yeah, I can understand why you're the only person who's in this market because
yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah,
it's
I have
gorgeous
to.
and I love the end product, but wow, I just very impressed with the ability to go through the tedium of actually making that, let alone just the talent and the skill that's required to make it happen.
Well, I was used to it because I was a realist painter, you know, and to be a realist painter, it's you work on a painting for a long time, months, and sometimes you have to do like you have to paint the cloth, maybe the cloth has a pattern on it, and you have to spend days and days painting that cloth, and you're like, wow, you develop patience. You develop a patience, you know,
Right.
anything to keep you motivated, to finish that one corner of that 10-foot painting, you know, like you have to, it's not always the whole time it's not fun, it's work. And you have to, the thing that keeps you going is I guess you dream about, oh man, when I finish this painting, it's gonna be awesome. Or like, oh wow, if I could just get that fold in that drape, just if I could finish that fold today, ah, I'll be so happy. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna hit the bar later and I'm gonna get wasted. Just gotta finish
Right.
that one little fold, Anything to motivate yourself to finish all these little areas where you're like, oh, okay, I don't need any motivation to paint this beautiful woman that's in the painting. Oh, this is pure joy, But now I got to paint everything that's around her. Oh, if you don't set up the painting, if you don't put things in there that you love to paint, you
Right.
could get stuck and be like, oh my god, I can't face that painting today. I can't paint that thing. But sometimes you just have to man up and do it, you know. But to be a great painter, you have to be a bit of a blue collar guy, you know. You have to be a bit of a monk. You have to be a bit of a monk. Be like, oh, if when I paint that fucking cloth, it's gonna be the best cloth anyone has ever painted. No one's gonna notice it except for maybe a few people that really understand painting, and I'm
Right.
doing it for them. They're gonna get it, And in the old days, it would be I don't believe in God, but the monks would be like, God sees everything. God is going to know if I don't paint
Right.
this one fold to perfection. God will know. I don't believe in God, but I love Michelangelo, the old masters, and like I gotta do it as good as them. I gotta do it as good as them, because
Yeah.
I'll know I haven't done it as good. So that's what kept me going as a painter. And I took that and I used it for sculpting stones too. It's gonna be the best goddamn stones ever sculpted.
Stefan, when you were painting, did you ever like branch out into drawing or painting fantasy, or was it always the realism?
Always the natural world, natural.
So what
Nature.
got you then to try and sculpt fantasy instead of, like why did
Dungeons,
you go fantasy with your sculpting instead of trying fantasy with your painting, just out of curiosity?
Dungeons and Dragons. I love to play at a fantastical. Yeah, I read all these great books like Robert E. Howard and Fritz Leiber and all. Lord of the Tolkien and the fantasy. You go, oh man, and but I didn't do fantasy paints. It's a good question, and because where I went to school, I went to the High School of Art and Design, so I
Mhm.
started painting around seriously around the age of 14 or 15, and we had oil paints every day. We had a model, and the model would sit up, and Mr. Greenberg, he was a Vietnam War veteran. He had one eye, grizzled old veteran, and he had such power, and he had such inspiration over all of us. He'd be like, "Listen, if you really want to be good, you got to come in here at 6 in the morning tomorrow. 6 in the morning tomorrow. And every day, 6 in the morning. Because I'll be here before school opens to teach you all. If you want to be great, you got to be here every day for the early morning class. And then after school, we're going to have the class after as well. You're not going to be great if you don't paint every day. So
Right.
he had me going there at 6 in the morning, 3 hours before school opened to paint. My parents couldn't believe it. They're like, I used to be a dropout. Like I used to get into nothing but trouble. And suddenly I'm going to school overtime. It's because I was inspired. I found something I loved. Inspiration is everything. I went from being a bad kid to the top of the class, and I graduated with the gold medal. I took the gold medal.
Congratulations. Glad you found your thing.
Early morning class, and I thought I was going to be a painter, but then there was, at that point in time, abstraction was ruling the world. No one wanted to see realism. No one wanted. They spat on it. They laughed at it. They ridiculed it. All those years I spent learning my craft and mastering it, all for nothing. I couldn't sell anything, and so I did odd jobs. I had a master's degree in paint. I went to college. I got a master's. All these years, over a decade of training, and then no work. So I sold a few paintings here, and I showed some paintings in a frame shop, and some people bought. I started to get like a little bit of a following from a frame store, because no art galleries would take it was too passé, this realism stuff. But an art gallery, our frame store took it, and I started to find some clients. So I would sell maybe $10,000, $15,000 a year in paintings.
God,
But
that's amazing.
You can't live off of that in New York City.
I know, but still, that's just having seen many starving artists. Jesus, that's great.
So I had to live at home. I was living with my parents, and they were okay with that. They liked having me around. They're Italian and Czechoslovakian parents, and my mother is a great cook. So I lived at home, and I don't know. Then now I count my blessings. Now I have my own house.
Hey, stupid question time. Did you do your grad and undergrad in Connecticut, or did you change states?
I did. I graduated from high school. I was 18, and then I spent a year in Italy painting in the Italian countryside.
Oh my God!
And then I came back, and no, wait a minute. Gosh, it's so long ago. I think I spent a year in Italy between the undergraduate and graduate school. Yeah, I think it was between those times. So I got the degree. I think I graduated, must be 89. In 89, I graduated college with a master's in painting. No, undergraduate in painting. Then I spent a year in Italy. Then I came back and said, you know what? I can't sell anything, but if I get a master's degree, then I could teach painting.
Right.
I could teach, and you don't have to really know anything except get that piece of paper. I know how to paint. I don't have to take any of these courses that teach you how to be a teacher. All you have to do is get the master's degree, and then they don't care if you know how to teach anyone. They just it's really crazy. They're like, you're a master now. So obviously, you'll be able to teach people, right? I don't know if that's true, but that's what they did. So I had the master's degree, and there I could teach in college. Really raw. I don't think I knew what I was doing when I started teaching in college. It was like, wow, I was so young. But I would go back to maybe one day.
Did you do any gaming while you were in college, or did you take a
Oh
pause?
yeah, wow. It was like probably the thing I did most.
Yeah, attaboy.
I was painting. I was painting and sculpting like a madman. I was a real hard worker. I used to sleep in the lobbies, in the couch on the lobby, pull all nighters. But I also did D&D a lot. I had the whole floor, my dormitory playing. Would play. They loved it. And theater of the mind, no miniatures.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't until later, much later, I started to make the terrain. And then the game evolved into terrain. I like both. I like to do both. Theater of the mind or terrain, miniatures. But it's always Dungeons and Dragons. I don't play a lot of other games. It's weird. I sometimes I tell people I'm not a gamer. I'm really not a gamer. They go, "Yeah, you want to play this game? Come play." No, I don't really like to play games. But Dungeons and Dragons I like.
Yeah,
That's the only game I like. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
that's kind of funny about you, and it's something I did notice. I was going to ask you about it actually. Is it seems like you just love Dungeons and Dragons. That's like the only game you like.
All I,
Why is that?
well, I mean, it's I love history.
Hmm.
I love history, and I love especially like swords and sorcery and dragons and all the traditional kinds of monsters, because it's all more or less historical and mythology
Yeah.
of our world, and I don't
Hmm.
need it to get more fantastical or more weird. I like the standard sort of, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess it's enough for me. I don't really need to, because for me it's not about the mechanics.
Right.
Like to play different games, and I got to learn new mechanics. I got to learn all that shit, and I'm not good with math or mechanics. I'm good with fantasy.
Yeah.
I'm good with storytelling and imagining things and fantasizing. But I'm not. I don't care about the game system and be like, oh, this is a better system or that's a better system. I don't care about that kind of stuff. All I care about is telling the story.
Yeah.
So I don't
Makes
need any
sense.
other game. You know.
I suffer from systems bigotry. You have to bear with me.
Well, it's a different kind of mind. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Some people like to be accountants. Some people like to be doctors, lawyers. Some people want to be firefighters, artists, musicians, dancers. I mean, the world is made up of people with different kinds of brains. That's what makes the world beautiful. Imagine if we were all the
Amen to
same.
that.
We would die of boredom. We would hate each other.
Unless everybody was like me, then it'd be perfect.
Variety is great. Gay people, black people, orange people, green people, old, young, weirdos, straight, anything. What's great is that there's so many differences in cultures. There's different cultures. There's Chinese food, there's Mexican food, there's German sausages, there's all kinds of
Delicious.
beer. There's German beer, there's Spanish wine. This is what makes the world great. Why does everyone hate each other? It's great that we're different. I don't understand. People don't
I
understand.
think I don't hate
They're not
anyone.
like you, I hate you. No, it's great that they're not like you. You should get to know them. Add some, variety into your life. Enrich your life.
Yeah, for sure. So you were talking about painting. Do you still paint, Stefan?
Well, I mean, I like to say I do, but physically, I don't think I have in a while.
Yeah.
I've drawn. I've done a lot of drawing and sculpting, but painting, oil painting, no, it's been years. It actually now I feel bad. 'Cause I'm like,
Way to go! You made him feel bad.
I
you know,
didn't mean to make him feel bad. I just,
that-
you're. I mean, I've seen your
my
art. You're incredibly talented, and
my old teachers
Oh,
are
yeah.
rolling in their grave. What
well,
happened?
now that people actually know who you are and you have a name for yourself, yeah, I bet you could probably sell a few more paintings.
Well, I had the thought that I might have, when I'm almost semi-retired,
Yeah. Yeah.
and maybe I ought to just go full retirement and go back to painting, and I could maybe even experiment with some fantasy. It would
Yeah.
make
Oh, absolutely.
two worlds could come together. You know, uh, my old teachers are gone. they used to frown on that stuff.
Right.
You know, they believe it. I used to bring in a Frazetta book.
Yeah.
To class, high school of art and design. Like, oh, Mr. Creamer, check this out, demons, and he'd be like, oh man, what are you doing? Listen, let me show you Caravaggio and Velasquez and Rembrandt. These are the real art. What are you doing here? Don't be a fool. It's to reprimand me, and I would be chagrined. Like, oh, you're right. Oh my God, look at this Rembrandt.
Oh yeah.
There's no doubt the old masters are fucking great.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
I have it all
I
over
had
the world. Look at these. Have you seen the Velasquez's in the Prado?
Oh
You
yeah.
see Michelangelo's Sistine ceiling? I mean, blows everything away.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I definitely have a great respect for the
Yeah.
classic arts. My great grandmother, she was a bit of an artist, and she traveled around Europe and painted and stuff. And I kind of I'm not an artist, but I had a knack for it when I was younger. And
Yeah. Yeah.
she really exposed me to all that, and I have a deep respect for it for sure.
Yeah. But you know what? I listened to them for a while. I sort of, as I get older, I go back to it. And I say, you know what? I don't think Frazetta's as bad as you guys thought he was. I
No.
think Frazetta's kind of fucking great.
Yeah.
You have to understand the full artist, the full situation of what he was able to do,
Mhm.
and maybe it's not a Rembrandt, but it's a Frazetta, and it's like, he a fantasy artist, he was a great painter.
Oh,
He-
for sure. I mean, he was
he's a legit. He paints like an old master. I've
yeah,
seen
he does.
real
Yeah.
life. I've seen them.
Yeah.
He paints like an old master.
Well, I
And
don't think those
old
people were
school. He's an old school artist.
yeah, he is. And, a lot of those guys were not taken seriously back then. Even the writers, like Robert E. Howard and H.P.
Yeah,
Lovecraft, and,
yeah.
those guys were not
Tolkien
taken seriously
even
back then.
Tolkien wasn't taken seriously.
No,
Now,
no. But look at it now, people consider
yeah,
those guys masters of their art,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. And now, now they like realist paintings, and they're like,
Yeah.
what goes around, it comes around. It's like a wheel, Time, what wasn't hot before becomes hot, and was hot becomes cold,
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
there are times when I think to myself, well, why didn't I stick with the painting? Why did I start this company and spend 25 years sculpting this terrain? Maybe if you had kept with the oil painting, you'd be a great oil painter. You would be in museums and shit, And I wonder sometimes, but then I say to myself, you know what? I'm very happy with how it turned out. I'm very happy with what I've created here because of the community.
Yeah.
When I think of all the great people I've met, when I think of the joy that I get letters and texts and emails and people that like tell me how happy they are that they could play with their children, that that makes me very happy.
Yeah. Well, I think you've
They,
had the same effect,
they,
on the gaming community that you probably would have had on the art world, because yeah,
I
you've
don't
become
know.
a bit of a legend in the gaming
Yeah, the
community.
art, the art, the paintings, they go on some rich person's wall, or not even. Maybe it goes in a closet. It goes somewhere in some dark place. It's never lit well.
Right.
No one ever sees it again, and it's sad. It's a sad thing that happens.
Yeah.
It was very depressing for me to go to a client's house and find out where they put this painting that I spent 6 months on.
Mhm.
He's like, oh my God, now no one sees it. It's over there.
Yeah.
But when I do something for Dwarven Forge, it goes to thousands of people. And they get it, and then it doesn't just die there. They take it, and then they have their own creativity. They add to it. It's
Yeah.
alive. Now they use it again and again in creative things, and they share it with their friends. And there's so much joy and second and third tiers of joy that come out of that. It's greater than paintings. So
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
sense, when I think of it that way, I say, you know what, I haven't wasted. I'm happy with what I done. I did the right thing.
Yeah, you definitely did. I don't think you wasted anything, man. You're bringing joy to a lot of people, and your art. It really is art, and it's going to be carried on probably for a really long time. That stuff is going to be on people's tabletops for years to come.
Well, so I feel like maybe I wasn't a failure, and it's okay. I
You're definitely not a
There's no
failure.
way there can be any doubt in your mind that there's no way you could think you're a failure. What you've produced is amazing. It's amazing talent and a great product.
it is what it is. When you get old, you look back. You don't realize when you're young that when you get older, you're going to look back. You think your whole life's ahead of you. But once you get older, you look back and you start wondering, what if I had done this? What if I had done that? What if I had taken this fork in the road? What if I had taken that fork in the road? It's something that happens to older people, and now I know. You're like, oh, did I waste my life? Oh, what if I had done this? For other people, what if I had taken this job instead of that job? What if I had married this person instead of that person?
Right.
I mean, you wonder about all kinds of things when you get older. And, you know, this is why I tell some people, I say, you know what? Don't waste your life. Do not tell yourself, oh, I got to do this to make money because that's what I should not pursue my dream. Because by all, you must pursue your dream, whatever that is. Do or die. Because later in life, you're going to look back and if you don't pursue your dream, you're always going to you're going to say, oh my God, did I do the right thing? What could I have been? Could I have done that? Could I? Well, you ended up doing something else you didn't want to do. Maybe you made money. Maybe you didn't make money. Maybe you failed. Maybe you didn't make so much money. You're like, well, I could have done what I loved, but I would have done what I loved my whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you
Definitely
can
words of
either
wisdom.
fail either way. So why not do what you love?
I'm
There are things
41
great.
years old and trying to figure out what the hell I want to do when I grow up.
Sometimes we get lucky. Sometimes opportunities just happen to us. But there's a lot of luck in the world. I do
Yeah.
believe that luck is thrown at you here and there. The
Yeah.
opportunities arise. It's up to you to grab that horse by the tail. It's up to you to grab it. But they come to you. Sometimes you don't even know that they have. But you gotta be a dreamer. To recognize it.
Yeah, for sure, for certain. I don't disagree.
Yeah.
Well,
I hope you're
we've
not
been going
feeling
on for a
lucky
while.
because you had
Yeah.
that was a lot of skill and talent and time that you put into doing what you're doing. There's no luck about this. This is hard work and effort. So congratulations. It's great to see
Yeah,
Dwarven Forge doing so well.
Oh well, thank you. There's you gotta work. Whether you're a carpenter or a waiter. I really liked waitering. I could have been a waiter. The rest of could have. I really could have. It was exciting. There wasn't a lot of money in it, but it was exciting. Every day was different people. You see all these different people. You didn't know how much money you were gonna make. And it was exciting. Uh, I'm a sociable person. I like to talk to people and see. So waitering was something I could do.
Yeah,
Uh,
you'd make a good waiter.
I was, you know what? I'm not sure I was that good. I don't have a great memory. I'm not sure I got all the orders. Were not right all the time, but I was so
Right.
jovial
Yeah.
that I had a great time, and I would get
Yeah.
great tips. You know.
Well, we've
Uh,
been going on for a while. I don't want to waste too much of your evening, but
no, this has been great. We agree on a lot of things. It's
yeah,
been
man, we definitely need to have you back on, just to
anytime.
bullshit with us. But I do want to close out by saying, what is Dwarven Forge doing nowadays? What do you guys got coming out?
Now we got like a commune. It's like we got an art school. I don't know what it is. It's like I got all these people there. I mean, these millennials, and
Yeah.
they're all a lot of them. Some of them I found people that I admired. I saw people. Oh, look at what this person is doing, and I'd be like, do you want to come and work for me? You know.
Yeah.
So it was great when you have a sort of a bit of a reputation. People pay attention to you. They're like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
sure, okay, yeah, I'll work for Dwarven Forge. So you can pick people a lot of time. So I picked a lot of great people, and now they're so good, like they don't need me.
Right.
Yeah. They watched me do things, you know. I taught them a little bit here and there. They taught each other. It was like a workshop. So we
Yeah.
had these sculpting workshops. People come in, then they go back. They sculpt at home. You know, there's like, you know, Eli and Michelle, and you know, Nina sculpts in the shop, and there's all these different people, and you know, and now the computers, everything is computers now.
Yeah.
They most know how to use a computer at first, but now everyone's using computers, social media, videos. Nate is crazy with the videos. This guy is like a drill sergeant. I mean, they were up there 9 in the morning. I can't live that way, you know.
Right.
I had to leave.
Yeah.
I couldn't deal with it. I can't do this 9 to 5 thing. I can't do this group art making thing. I'm too much of a grognard. You know, I
Right.
come from this school of is my way or the highway. You know, like this is my sculpture, and fuck you if you don't like it. So I couldn't. You know, I don't know. They're able to do it better than me.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
oh,
that's kind of cool. You've passed the torch down, and
yeah.
it's just going.
I,
So what do you guys got coming out
I
next?
tell 'em, I see everything they do. We see it online. Like we have the way Slack.
Yeah. Yeah.
They and I have to beg them. I say, look, can you send me some pictures of what you're sculpting? You know, and then I tell them, oh well, you put. I don't know if they listen to me. They usually don't listen. I give my input. I say, come on, man, we need hills. We need hills.
Yeah.
Still don't think they're going to do hills for the Wilderlands. You know.
Yeah.
Like I want just a regular hill. They want to do all this fancy stuff, and I'm like, I don't need that. I want just a regular hill because I want my orcs to come over the hill.
Right.
I need a hill, you know. I don't need all that other shit, you know. And so they don't really listen to me a lot. Sometimes they do. Maybe I'm exaggerating. I don't know how much they listen to me or not. But I'm like the weirdo. I'm like the weird uncle now.
Right.
I fly into New York. I come in the office, and they're all like, "Oh my God, he's here! What crazy shit is he gonna say now?" I'm the weirdo. I've become like John Milius. You know, I come in and I start talking crazy shit, and they're like, "Oh, you can't say that. You know, this is disparaging. You use the word that's good." I'm like, "What? I grew up in New York. We say this shit all the time."
Right.
I get myself into trouble, and I'm just like, okay, I can't come in, you know, because they don't understand me.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
I'm from a different culture and time.
Yeah.
They don't get it. You know, I mean, I love what they do. But I realize that listen, you got to pass the torch.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I'm very happy to say, well, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to go. What I do now is I go to conventions.
Yep.
I'm a traveling diplomat. You know, whatever you call it. You know, I go around the traveling circus. I go from convention to convention. I set up the stuff. I meet people. I make contacts. You know, I shoot the shit. I demonstrate the products live there. You know, either online or at the show, and that's what I do, and I enjoy that part. I love running games.
Yeah.
I like the, you know, I'm a creative person. I like the creative part. I don't like the office part. I've
Right.
never wanted to
Yeah.
do that. I was always a rebel, an
Yeah.
outsider, a troublemaker. I don't perform well in a structured environment.
Yeah.
So they do it. They're doing it. I'm still the CEO. Yeah, I still majority owner of the company, but I let them do what they want. I let them do unless they were to do something freaking ridiculous. But they don't. They're doing very well. They're doing very well. They have very good sculptors. They you know, it used to be just me, and now there's a whole team of people, and
Yeah.
and they perfect things, and they do wow. The quantity of stuff they do, it's like boggles my. Like I could never sculpt that much shit. in 1 year. You know,
Right.
now I have a whole team of people doing it.
Yeah, that's
So,
awesome.
and you know, they're like, look, if I want to sculpt something, I can do it.
Yeah.
I've just been so busy. And the last few years, I was moving.
Yeah, right.
Parents were dying. They
Yeah.
died. I moved. My personal life, you know, there's been changes.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know. Throw in some midlife crisis in there, maybe. I don't know.
Right.
But so it's been a change. A change. Where do we go from here? I don't know. But Dwarven Forge is doing fine. They were taking a hit during the this pandemic,
Yeah.
but I think we're doing okay. Everyone's working from home. Everyone's getting paid. You know, it's they love what they do. They love what they do, and that's important.
That is very important.
I want them to love what they do. I want them to have a good time doing it. So I step out of the way. I stay out of their hair. You know?
Yeah. That's probably a good approach. I mean, you probably know that because you're a creative person.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I'm
creative
not
people
good
don't
at
like
running
being stepped
things.
on.
You saw the dwarven, not?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Not a dwarven. I am not a leader. You know,
Yeah.
I'm like, let's get a pirate ship. You know, fucking nuts.
Right.
I finally realized, you know what? There's a better way to do this shit. You know, and there are people that are better at this than me. And what you're good at is going out and meeting people and running games. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, you are good at it. I mean, you're you know, that's definitely a great niche for you now, you know.
Yeah,
You're a very personable person. You get along with everybody and you run great games too. So, um
I
you're
try. Thank you.
you couldn't ask for a better ambassador for the company, I think, you know.
That's sort of my role now. You
Yeah.
know, yeah. They put up with me.
Yeah, I need to get into one of your games someday. I've never been able to, but someday I'm going to get in there.
Gotta get in there.
Yeah.
You're gonna die right away.
That's fine.
It's
I'm
good
used to
for
it.
them.
What I tell everybody, you know. Yeah, you gotta keep them on their toes.
Yeah, man. Well, we've
Sure.
been going for a while, and again, I don't want to keep you too late, but hey,
All right. Well,
Stefan, it's been a fucking pleasure to have you, man.
been fun grumbling.
Yeah, absolutely. And again,
Young Grognard, a young Grognard.
yeah, we
So,
definitely need to have you back. Thanks for
you
coming
just
on.
tell me when, man. You tell me when, and I'm happy to jump back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so this has been a great talk. Thanks for coming on, Stefan. Thanks, Chase and Dave, for helping out.
Thanks for having me.
If you
Thanks,
guys,
and Dave. I didn't hear you guys much, but you're there.
It was great meeting you,
I did a
Stefan.
lot of talking. Jesus, someone should
Well,
have
that's
shut.
what we want. Nobody wants to hear us talking. We're here to listen to you.
Oh
You're
my
the
God.
interesting one here.
yeah,
We just cover Cody's bathroom breaks.
Talk
yeah,
my
pretty much.
Jesus.
But yeah, this has been a great conversation. Thanks again for coming on, Stefan.
All right.
Everybody, make sure to go support Dwarven Forge. They still make a great product after all these years. I still love it. Make sure to
And
go watch the Dwarven Knot if you haven't seen it because it's a fantastic documentary. Yeah, I just want to shout out again. Make sure everybody go to check out the Old School Dungeons and Dragons Facebook group. It's kind of our home base for the Grognard Grumbles and the Grognard Gamers. If you haven't checked them out, it's a great old school community. We also have a Discord, which is where we record the Grognard Grumbles, and anybody's always welcome to come on this show. Next week we have a very special guest. We're going to have Tim Kask on, which I'm very excited about.
The original
And-
Grognard.
Yeah, the original Grognard, and it should be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. I've always wanted to talk to Tim, and finally snagged him. So yeah, everybody look forward to that. But without further ado, this has been the Grognard Grumbles. Everybody have a good night.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
everybody. Night.